Hello and welcome. Chris from Missouri here, bringing you another video about vintage baseball cards. And in this video, I'm excited to show you some cards that I just recently picked up in a trade. But today, I actually want to be an influencer. I want to, I believe our vintage hobby, our vintage collecting hobby, needs some younger blood. And we're getting it. There's a few young guys getting into the vintage stuff, but I believe we need to help encourage that. And I love it when I set up at card shows and see these 10 and 11, 12-year-old kids coming around with their parents. And and if I was going to title this title would be "Let Them Win Sometimes." And what I mean by that is when that 10 or 11-year-old kid comes to you to look at your cards, uh, make it a teachable moment. Okay, don't talk down to them, but I believe you should teach them. And here's for instance, I. If I have a kid come up to me and they're with their mom or their dad and they point to a card and let's say it's a George Brett card, so my area it might be a George Brett card and the kid knows about George Brett and he says, "I want that card right there." Okay, I put on my other hat. I put on my buying hat where I go to shows and walk around and buy. And so, and I also put on my teacher hat. And I tell the kid, I said, "See that price that I have on there? Almost everybody has their cards priced. And there's some what I call wiggle room in there." And I'll tell them that you're interested in a particular card, like my George Brett. And you pick that up and look at it and then ask the dealer, is this the best you can do, or what's the best price you can do, or would you take this amount for it? Because most, as you guys know, most of the stuff the dealers have, they'll work with you on prices. And if they're not going to work with a a younger kid, then they some kind of heartless collector that I don't want to be around. But uh, teach them that. But also, if you're trading with someone, and I do this, I have some great friends at the local card shop that some of them have become vintage collectors, and we'll trade back and forth. Now, I don't want them to take advantage of me, and I'm not asking and telling you to do this all the time. But if you can afford to do this, and I believe where I am in life, I can afford to lose on the deal a little bit. But if I'm trading with, they're not kids, but if I'm trading with a younger person that's doing vintage and I'm excited to see them, I don't mind losing a little bit in the trade. Uh, or if they're selling a card and they got a price on there, I don't mind paying that price if it's not, and it's usually based on eBay prices because these guys they know how to look up prices better than a lot of us guys. If you go to any show you go to, you'll see somebody on their phone looking up eBay prices. They're not carrying around a Beckett magazine and looking at that number. They want to see what the last couple have sold, and that's how they also price it. And so I don't mind paying the price that they have on it or losing in the deal because I can afford to. And I don't think when I'm leave, they're saying, I took advantage of him or that kind of stuff. I just hope people know, I get it across that, I'm not trying to say I'm the super guy or anything like that. I'm just saying I feel good when a deal's done and they feel good. And a lot of times when I trade, I want it to be equal, but I don't mind losing in a deal to a younger person. And I think if you're a vintage collector, you should do the same thing if you can afford to. I'm not telling you to take a bath. I'm on it. I'm not telling you to give up everything on it. But if everything's reasonable, don't mind losing on the deal. Now, the cards I'm going to show you is from a guy. that's in college, young guy. He's a basketball player, but I love to see him. He buys and sells vintage cards, and I know he's a wheeling dealing kind of guy where that's great too. But he also has a personal collection that I assume is pretty nice. And anyway, he had some cards that he wanted to sell, and it's some cards I didn't have. A few of his cards he wanted to sell I didn't have, and so we kind of haggled a little bit on the phone, texting back and forth. But it wasn't. It was more for me to have fun than anything else. But anyway, he said he had some 52 Bowmans to sell me, and then he had a couple other cards that I ended up purchasing. So he gave me a price. I don't have to wait for shipping. We met. I picked up the cards. We traded. I traded him green paper that had pictures of presidents on them for his card. So anyway, I want to show you. I got into my collection to see what I had on 52 Bowman. So I'm gonna turn this around so it kind of makes sense, and I'm gonna show you some cards. So what I had in my collection, I had the 52 Mickey Mantle. Now, I had almost a complete set of the 52 Bowman at one time, but I had to sell a bunch of them just at various reasons, and this 20 years ago. But I kept a few of them, and I had the Willie Mays, and I had the Stan Musial. And then I also had the Duke Snider. Now that's all I had was those 4 cards left in this. So I was anxious to trade for 3 52 Bowman cards. And here they are now. And then I'm going to show you a couple others. But here's a Pee Wee Reese Bowman that I got. Here's a 52 Larry Doby. And here's the Bob Feller. Now I'm going to do a story on Bob Feller coming up this year sometime in a video. And then I had this already, but I want to take this to shows, and I have a 2 or 3 of these already, but I want to take this to shows and have people come by and take a look, and if they buy it, they buy it. But if it does not sell, that's going to be some kind of gift or something to someone that doesn't have one. And then take a look at this. This is a 1965 Bancroft Tiddler Mickey Mantle. Now say Tiddler out loud. That's a funny word. But anyway, this looks like a picture of Stan Musial, but it's Mickey Mantle on the front, and on the back, it has Eddie Matthews information. So I've looked up some information on this, but if you want to look up, get a Mantle card that's not all that expensive, there's one for you. Now listen, I want to tell you a quick joke before I get off here. That way I can see if anybody's paying attention for real. But and I saw this in one of my trading groups, and it goes like this: the devil tells God, he says, I want my team to play your team in a baseball game. And God said, I kind of laughed, and he said, hey, remember, I got guys up here like Lou Gehrig and Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth. And the devil snickered and said, well, you don't have a chance. He says, because I got all the umpires. So guys, listen, if you can, let them win every once in a while. And remember, it's only a hobby. Collect what you like.